last one. I don't know, it seemed like it was about like last. That
I was
was
gonna
actually
say-
a little more than last.
Yeah, we had 111 last year, so we're increased a few cars.
Are you part of that organization?
His wife is.
My wife is on the senior advisory board,
Okay.
so I was,
Well, it was really well done, except we had that time framing there for about an hour, and you've eaten, you've seen
Right.
cars, you've done the cruise.
You've done the
So you're
cruise.
gonna sit around for an hour and wait for the drawing.
right.
Maybe you could work something in there to keep us occupied for
What was it?
an hour.
What was the drawing for them? Half and half?
Yeah, 50/50, and then.
Well, they had 50/50.
All the donations had a separate deal for,
I left last year. Well, it was threatening rain last year.
Oh, it was beautiful this year. I like the one guy that's got the old blue. He won the 5-gallon can of racing fuel, and he needed it. He got so tickled to drive down the highway on that thing. Old blue is a pro street racing car. It's not licensed for the road.
With a big Hemi blower sticking out of there.
Yep.
You know the kind.
our Bob there down there, Bob's Cars sells that stuff.
Yeah, he's the one that donated it.
Is it on 3 North there?
No, and two south.
Yeah, right by Maverick.
Oh, I thought there's a Bob's up on 3 North across the street from.
That's Bob's barber shop.
Maybe that's.
That's Bob's barber shop.
Bob started on that corner.
Oh, he did?
He moved down.
But there is a used car lot up there too, I think.
Well, Bill, what's his name? Runs the automotive repair place now.
Bill.
Bill's now.
Hello, mother, hello. Here we are. Campground?
Okay, what is this now? This is the study session.
Yeah.
Are you guys almost done with your reviews?
We only got one. We got, next week we have 10 to do.
Oh, wait, but this is, the study session is to
The
review.
study session is
you're gonna
for
be-
water.
Wheels up tomorrow, huh?
Wheels up tomorrow. About?
I was. Oh. I'm sorry.
Does it recycle? Does it start all over again?
7-year-old jumping on my chest. Get up, get up, get up, get up. It's time to play.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm in a bigger way.
What's wrong with the helmet nowadays?
Guess who's gonna have all the fun? And I'll have all my chest compressions done.
Okay.
That's right.
You got 6 weeks.
And it'll smell like fish.
Yeah.
That's for 30 minutes.
It'll smell like a fish.
You know, I had that surgery done in Phoenix, right? With that aorta.
Right.
Went back after 2 weeks and had a checkup. And I told him, I said, you know, my leg is a little swollen.
Small crowd.
I said, fix that. It's okay. The vessels, black them off, he said. So that's what it was. He said, there's check valves on your veins and your legs. The blood goes down, they go right back down. White hair. It's 3-4 days after.
Yeah, her husband.
Yeah. So sore.
Where he reported you, he did report you.
It's hard as a rock. So that's cool. I got somebody take me down. Like that for a while, a couple of days. So I had somebody take me back down to the river when I had the surgery. To check it out because the cardiologist's office is just a block away. So they got all the records from the surgery. And they were going to keep me, so they decided to let me go home. But now I got PEs.
Probably studying up for dinner.
Yeah. Been causing me discomfort. I never associated all these drugs go cancer. They went on both sides in the catheter. Apparently this guy is circulating through the system. So now I'm on
Blood thinner?
X Alta. X-E-R-A-L-T-O.
Oh, the
Blood clot, what do you call it?
crab was responsible for some parts and themselves were responsible for the
It's all in the wrong spot.
So we found to dissolve slowly, not chunk off under the chain. This indoor sucks.
I know. That's why I said I wasn't gonna get old.
Not for the faint of heart.
I still play ball.
Well, you know, I think I was pretty active too until all this stuff started happening.
And that, one of my
Many others.
managers was to 3 or 4 times a day.
Or would you like to say this? I'm just gonna have a good comment.
No, that's why
I was doing it when I went down to see him. 2-3 days after that.
I think it's great. One lady says, this was hands down better than the rest of it.
We need to start again.
No, it was a good day. Kids absolutely had a ball. We kept everything open later than we were going to. We were gonna shut down, we didn't have games at 7:38. We were gonna shut down the water slide. We had so much interest. We said, we have to come in, if we got volunteers that'll run, let's
Not to say we didn't work.
Yeah, so it was all happening right up until 9 o'clock on Friday.
No, I've been
I was so proud of that.
driving the bus.
One little girl that kept trying and trying. And then finally, the phantom pitcher got behind her and hit it. Just the same moment that ball left her hand, this ball flew right over her shoulder.
The squeaky wheel gets produced.
Well, I can tell you, a lot of people on my street, including this guy right here, I think we pricing we are the seats in the back of the bus more expensive to get some of these people.
Oh, okay. Good.
There's a lot of things you can put in seats back there.
All right, you
I'll
guys
take
ready
the
to
seats
leave
out
whenever you want?
Okay.
Let's light the fire and kick.
Ladies ready? Okay.
I will.
Cool. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please rise and remove your hats for the invocation.
Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessing that we received here with the beautiful weather in Chino Valley. Thank you for the opportunity to gather here and do the business of the town, watch over our citizens, watch over our friends, watch over our young men and women that are overseas protecting us. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. May we have the roll call?
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Pat McKee is not here, so we'll go with Councilmember Turner,
Here.
Councilmember Wojcik,
Here.
Councilmember Best,
Here.
Vice Mayor Croft,
Here.
and Mayor Marley.
Here. Introductions, presentations, and proclamations. We do not have any this morning or this evening. Call to the public. Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council concerning a subject that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. Total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. Anyone for call to the public? Ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Ilona Dean. I have been in Chino Valley close to 5 years, and I live off Center Street. I'm here in regard to the paving project on Chino Meadows 5. During the meeting on May 26, motion passed to pave Chino Meadows 5, excluding Lazy Loop and portion of Cottonwood. June 23rd meeting, comments were made regarding paving of Lazy Loop Drive. On the agenda for the same date, 3 recommendations were made regarding the paving project. No action taken. Same meeting, June 23rd, under action taken, item number 7D. Approved option number 2 with modifications. It did not list what the modifications were, if there were any. Mr. Mayor, council members, when Center Street was open to the through traffic bridging the wash between Railroad and Cottonwood Lane a few years ago, we complained about the enormous amount of dust. Center Street was open to give the residents living east of us a second way out of their development in case of severe flooding. I spoke to Mr. Straub at that time and was told that Center Street would ultimately be hard-topped to contain this dust caused by the traffic. It was just a matter of waiting for the funds to become available. No asphalt was to be used since it was too expensive and therefore cost-prohibiting. We did not see any problem with that decision as long as the dust was contained. In May, Mr. Gridman was in contact with me resolving the flooding issues on our property that we experienced due to this new road, and he assured my husband and me that by the time we were coming back from the trip at the end of June, that the road would be done and we would not have to worry about the dust anymore. My question to you: what possessed you to vote for not paving a few hundred feet of road in front of our house? The major artery out of Chino Meadows 5. Especially now since Center Street has opened all the way to Route 1 East. If State Route 89, think about it, if it were a town road, would you leave it to be a dirt road while paving Route 1 West and 1 Route East? What would be that would be totally insane. Traffic has not doubled or tripled, it has quadrupled. The very ones on Lazy Loop complaining about chipped windshields, muddy streets, and dirty cars are speeding by my home, throwing dust and dirt. Your decision has condemned my husband and me, prisoners in our own home. You state that you cannot afford to pave that little stretch of main road. Well, we cannot afford to eat and breathe in your dust and dirt. This has nothing to do with home value. It has everything to do with value of life and breath. Please let me know what your plans are about reversing this inexcusable decision and make things right, so I can make a decision what further steps we need to take. Thank you.
And it's Miss Medine. How do you pronounce that?
Ilona.
Ilona spelled with an I, I-L-O-N-A. Last name is Dean, D-E-A-N.
Thank you. Anyone else for call to the public? Yes, sir.
Ronald Maines, Chino Valley resident, going on 17 years now. Mayor, Council. An item on the agenda for June 23rd council meeting was Ordinance 15-797, which passed and amended UDO Section 1.9.2E. That section addresses the 150-foot rule regarding supermajority vote on zone changes, and the ordinance added the requirement that those wishing to protest must submit their protests 3 business days before the meeting. I get that. Those protests need time for processing, verification, and etc. However, I have a problem with the 3 business days portion of the change. Given that the town continues to operate on a 4-day work week, it means that a protest would need to be submitted on Thursday for a council meeting that occurs on Tuesday. Or would the protest need to be submitted on Wednesday. Count the days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday don't count because they're not business days. Then there's Monday and Tuesday, the meeting day. That is a total of 6 days, or 7 if the protest needs to be submitted on Wednesday. Arizona Revised Statute 9-462.04 states that the public must be notified 15 days before the meeting in question. So if you subtract the 6 or 7 days from the 15, the person wishing to protest really only has 8 or 9 days notice. So the change with the passing of Ordinance 15-797 is in conflict with the statute. The change wasn't completely thought out. It is clear that the spirit and letter of the statute means that the protesters have 15 days notice. And Ordinance 15-797 doesn't address those who wish to protest who aren't within 150 feet. I'm not sure how to resolve the situation, but I believe it needs to be done. I'm anxious to hear how the situation will be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Town manager, could you look into that for us, please? Okay, thank you. Any others for call to the public? Call to the public is now closed. Response to the public. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials addressed matters raised during call to the public at a previous meeting. And we had matters raised at the last meeting which have been addressed in the previous meetings, so we'll continue onward. Number 5, current events, summaries, and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor, any council member, or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events or ask a staff member to provide the same. Presentation on information requested by the mayor and council will be made and questions answered. No action will be taken. Before we do the appointments subcommittee, do we have any other committee reports on this side? No? Any reports on this side? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk about the Appointments Committee procedure. The Appointments Committee, consisting of myself, Councilman Best, and Councilman Turner, we met today. We'll meet again on July 21st and 22nd to interview 11 applicants to fill the vacant town council position. All applicants will be interviewed using the same interview questions for their 45-minute interviews. The Appointment Committee will rate the applicants from 1 to 11. The top 5 applicants will be presented to the council at the July 28th regular meeting. The town council then has the option of appointing the top candidate or of adjourning the executive session to interview the top 5 candidates before selecting the appointee. The person selected will be sworn in and seated that evening.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith, before we call on you, I've got a couple of items I wanted to cover. I wanted to thank Mr. Dennis Gizzy for allowing us to use the field across from the Aquatic Center for parking on July the 4th. Also wanted to thank the Rec Foundation for the 4th of July celebration and fireworks. The Word of Life Church donated a lot of time and effort into that. The Rotary Club, the Lions Club, and various individuals. Just wanted to thank everyone for their participation in the July 4th fireworks. One individual told me that they felt better than what Prescott has put on, so that's good. Sort of nice to show Prescott some tail lights here. Also wanted to let folks know that Pat Purdon, who was a previous council member, passed away on the 19th of June, and services will be on July the 18th at 11 a.m. at St. Catherine's here in Chino Valley. And also, we've been gathering some attaboys, I guess you could say, from various folks that have been dealing with our development services. I just wanted to read one of these. Rather than angry letters, these are non-angry letters. It says, I'd like to let you know that I recently picked up my building permit for the Curry Hangar and Landing Strip project. I've dealt with many city entities, primarily in the Valley and in other states. I want you to know the entire staff was polite, professional, courteous, helpful, and responded timely through the plan review and permitting process. It has been a pleasurable experience and positive change from the typical process. Hats off to your staff. And that's from Rick Weiss, the VP of Operations at Johnson Carlier. So that was one of several thank you notes that we received. The mayor's report tonight is a little bit lengthy. I tried to cover a lot of material, so please, if you fall asleep, don't snore too loudly, okay? Several years ago, the town's finance officer warned the Chino Valley Town Council that the town needed to begin growing a sustainable economy rather than living off of state-shared revenues and grants. Having taken that advice to heart, the council began charting a course toward that eventual end. Unfortunately, the challenge of building a sustainable economy in Chino has proven to be quite a task for a number of reasons. The most prominent being lack of infrastructure, pre-existing bureaucratic red tape, long-standing legal conflicts, the town's past reputation for being unfriendly towards business, and the desire of many citizens to remain a bedroom community, in other words, supplying a labor force to nearby towns without having jobs here in Chino. As the town council began to address these items, the magnitude and complexity of each became abundantly clear. The first two items, infrastructure and red tape, have been outlined in numerous articles which are available on the town website, so I'll only deal with them briefly. These were basically operational problems requiring operational solutions. The lack of infrastructure, both water and wastewater, could be resolved in part by refinancing the wastewater treatment plant and purchasing the Prescott Water Distribution System. If the town is successful in accomplishing both of these, it will bring both enterprise funds into the black in a relatively short period of time. The red tape issue can be resolved in large measure by revamping the Unified Development Ordinance, especially the sections regarding agricultural operations and business signage. This process is underway and should be near completion by the end of summer or early autumn. The legal conflicts have been resolved, ending years of attorney fees and court costs. The last two items have proven to be a bit more difficult, requiring more of a culture shift than an operational solution. Overcoming a reputation of being unfriendly to business requires more than just passing out flyers and attending a few economic development seminars. The town has worked hard to establish a presence with the Greater Prescott Regional Economic Partnership, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments, and the Arizona Commerce Authority, as well as partnering with our local Chamber of Commerce. Revamping the UDO, or Unified Development Ordinance, mentioned earlier, will also help our existing businesses, and we're beginning to receive positive feedback from businesses and developers that work with the town. Bringing employers to Chino Valley will also help us stop the sales tax leakage to Prescott and Prescott Valley, since many individuals do their shopping on their way home from work. Providing a more business-friendly atmosphere will help our existing employers to grow and flourish, and this will bring more retail choices to our community, thus raising the standard of living for all Chino Valley residents. In so doing, we can keep the small-town atmosphere and keep the amenities that our citizens have come to enjoy. Chris Marley, Mayor of Chino Valley. And that article will be in the paper tomorrow, I believe. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to recognize Cindy over at the Senior Center. They've been undergoing some improvements and changes to the center. She's been working very hard to use the grant funds and the donations that we have on hand to supplement the funds that we have. If you haven't had an opportunity to go by there, the new floor is in. They're working on painting and creating an opening and a patio outside. Our hope is that we can make the facility more attractive to people who might want to rent it for weddings and things like that on the weekend. So Cindy's been doing a great job. If you see her, tell her thank you.
All right, thank you. One other item I received this evening, Chino Valley Public Library volunteer hours from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015. Total volunteer hours, 6,420 hours. That's pretty neat. We've got a lot of good volunteers in the town, so anyway. Moving on to consent agenda. All those items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Does anyone wish to remove any items from consent agenda? No? Okay. Ms. Lewis?
Item 6A, consideration and possible action to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the Town of Chino Valley and Yavapai County authorizing payment for the Chino Meadows Units 2 and 5 drainage project. The project in the amount of $650,000 was budgeted for and will be accounted for in the Capital Improvement Fund.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda item 6 alpha.
Second it?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. The council may vote to recess during the public meeting and hold an executive session on any item on this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 for the purpose of discussion or consultation for legal advice with the town attorney. Executive sessions are not open to the public and no action may be taken in executive session. Item 7A. Consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 15-1063, levying and assessing an ad valorem tax on the assessed value of all real and personal property within the boundaries of the Town of Chino Valley Street Lighting Improvement Districts, CVS LID, for fiscal year 2015/2016 pursuant to Section 48-616 Arizona Revised Statutes. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is actually the last step in approving the tax for the Chino Valley Street Lighting Improvement District. As you can see on the very back of your agenda, we have the 3 Chino Valley Street Lighting Improvement Districts, and we're assessing a total of $4,000 over those 3. So this is the last step in the process. We notify the county tomorrow morning, and we're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt resolution number 15-1063, levying and assessing the ad valorem tax for the Town of Chino Valley Street Lighting Improvement District for the fiscal year 2015-2016.
Second it?
Okay, we have a motion and 2 seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 7B, consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 15-1064 to authorize staff to pursue the right-of-way acquisition for construction of Road 1 East between Road 3 South and Road 4 South. Funds to come from road impact fees. Mr. Gritman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you know, over the last several years, we've been pursuing many road projects. These are all linked back to Cortez's litigation for South, Center Street, and so on. This is a continuation of it. This is the last of the right-of-way acquisition for Road 1 East. We're on schedule to begin the construction of the project in long about October of this year. As 89 finishes, I don't know if you've driven down 89 today, but they're getting really close. In the next couple of weeks, you're going to be driving on all 4 lanes now, two north and 2 south. So the town has agreed or committed to constructing Road 1 East, Kalinich, Road 4.5, and Brownlow. Those are the main roads that are identified in the IGAs that we have with ADOT. Within 6 months after the completion of the project, which will be August of 15 here, when they will officially finish that project. So with us starting the road construction in October, we're fine as far as that agreement goes. So this is the last of the right-of-way. We have negotiated all the rights-of-way. And I will tell you, every one of them have come as either donations or have been through a previous dedication of an easement that Phyllis covered a year ago or so. So all of these have been acquired with no money at all, just negotiations and talking with folks. This last piece is a little bit dicey, so if you'll give me just a minute, let me go through what this is. And I'll use the pointer here so everybody at home can see. This is Road 3 South up here. This is East Picacho, which is halfway between 3 South and 4 South. The dedication we're talking about is whatever color that is right there. I'll call it blue, since that's what I see, but nevertheless, it's this 27-foot dedication right here. There is already a 23-foot right-of-way dedication on this side of the section line, so by us pursuing 27 feet, that gives us the total of 50 feet that is our standard right-of-way. You'll notice there are some rights-of-way off to the east of the 23-foot current dedication. For whatever reasons, I'm not quite sure why they exist, but over the years, the town has secured them in whatever the reasons were. In short, it doesn't line up with Road 1 East to the north, and it just doesn't fit overall. So ultimately, we will be abandoning portions of this dedication, this darker blue, this red, and whatever color that is right there. We will be abandoning those portions back to those property owners. We're going to do it after we finish the project, so if I've got to shift it, and instead of dedicating back 25 feet, we may dedicate back 24 feet in an area if we ran over a foot or something like that. So once the project is farther along and we're through this area right here, we'll know exactly how much we're going to be abandoning back to each of the property owners. So that brings us to this piece right here. It's owned by a company by the name of Glen Arms. I'm going to go to the next map, but I want to just count. There's 2 houses down at the southern area, and you'll see I'm going to flip back and forth for a quick second because this is Autumn Wash. Autumn Wash is a large sheet flow area. It's not FEMA floodplain, but it's an area that we have mapped knowing that the area down there floods. These are the 2 houses that I was alluding to earlier. So I'm going to flip back up. Those are these 2 houses here. So you can see when you get to pretty much this north property line, you're getting into properties that are all under at least a foot of water, at least. This actually goes upwards towards 3 feet. So what you have here, here's the northern property. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 properties that are virtually unbuildable. Or if they're buildable, you're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in engineering, replatting, everything else in order to make this into something that you can actually construct across. Since Autumn Wash comes through here in a wide sweep, there will be vast areas of this development that are going to have to be replatted in some fashion or another. In short, we approached Glen Arms along about September or so of last year. They came back at a highly exorbitant price for what they considered the value to be. So the town contracted with Loper and Associates, appraisers that are recognized. They've done lots and lots of appraisals for Chino or for ADOT and statewide. They're court tested. They're a highly reputable company. And they came up with a value of approximately $8,000 for the land that we're talking about, which in short, since these are unbuildable up here, you're talking about properties in this southern area down here. Since we're only acquiring 27 feet, and they're going to have to go through a replatting process anyway, they will be able to salvage many of these lots back in here into some form of a constructible piece. It just won't be in this configuration. They may have to turn the property so that they have more of a frontage that's on their roadway and a little bit shallower in the depth, if you will. But they will be able to salvage many of these pieces down here. We've been working with their property manager for months and months now. She came back to me in June after a meeting of the partners and said that they would prefer to take this through eminent domain so that they can argue value in front of the judge. So that's where we're at right now. The piece to the south, which is also in this ordinance, which is this piece down here, is the Transland dedication. Mr. Jordan, who owns this piece, has already agreed to the dedication. It will again come to us free of charge. He sees the value of the road far in excess of the land that he's giving up. And those are actually the last 2 pieces that we have to formally secure, get their names on the warranty deeds, and then just record them. So with that, I'll answer your questions.
All right. Any questions on this side?
It sounds like staff to this point has done all of their due diligence to try to make this happen without going to this point, and these folks have actually asked to go this way.
Everything that we have always done is trying to avoid eminent domain. No offense, but making attorneys more wealthy is not my goal in life. However, it is one of those things where we don't have much choice. They want over $500,000 for the land. We valued it at $8,000. We are at a chasm of difference in value. There's no point in talking to them. We've talked to their property manager. We've offered them above the appraised value. We offered them up to $12,000. Again, if it's at $8,000, we're 50% over the appraised value. They have said, thank you, but no thank you. We're still way too far apart. So that's what the process is set up for, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Gritman, you and I talked about the same thing. I called evidently at the same time Mr. Turner had called, because I wanted to make sure that eminent domain was the absolute last ditch effort.
Yes, and this is on the piece of Road 1 East that is north of 4 South. Everything south of 4 South, Phyllis has already dealt with through dedications and acceptances of those dedications that happened a long, long time ago, decades ago, in fact.
Okay.
And those things have now, what we're doing here, we'll actually be taking fee title to the property in the areas to the south, with the exception of Carsick, because Carsick we did acquire it by fee title. The other pieces are all easements. So technically the property owners still own the land, but the town has a right to build a transportation roadway system across it. So
Okay.
that's what we're sitting on top of on the southern pieces, yeah.
Great, thank you, thank you. Any other questions on this side of the desk? All right, the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt resolution number 15-1064 to authorize staff to pursue the right-of-way acquisition for construction of Road 1 East between Road 3 South and Road 4 South.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C, discussion and possible action to require council members to pay all costs associated with any records request generated by that council member. Mr. Best and I, for our audience's sake, Councilman Best and I spoke about this because we have had a number of records requests that we as council members have generated, and there's evidently quite a few towns in Arizona where council members and mayors are required to pay for their own records requests, just like members of the public. You folks as members of the public, if you submit a records request, you're required to pay for it, and for myself, I feel that it's only fair that we be required to pay for it also. Mr. Best, did you have anything to add on that, or?
Well, some of our previous persons who have done requests, they went ahead and paid for it without having any ordinance. They just took it upon themselves to pay for it. And why we haven't done that all along by stepping up is beyond me. So if we make a resolution or something that makes you do it, I'm all for it. So we'll go along with that.
Okay, cool. Is there any further discussion on either?
Yeah, I just want to bring up, under issue statement here, in the third paragraph, it talks about what other towns have done, and it does have a sentence here that says, the primary exception to the rule was records requested that were associated with their duties and/or were needed to carry out the duties as council persons. So, I'm just wondering if there should be some leeway within conducting business as council, whether it's a dollar amount, a number, I'm not sure what, rather than just cut off, everything's done. You know,
Oh, okay.
everything you ask for is paid for. Just something for discussion.
Okay, yeah, easy enough. I'm, insofar as our official duties, I'm not okay with paying for every record that we request as part of our official duties, as part of our work as a council. We would quickly burn through the tremendous wage that they pay us. But insofar as individuals, if I wish to do a records request as an individual, then I feel that it's fair to pay that. Yes, sir.
I agree with Lon. I think that we should allow like one a month or one every other month, 6 a year or something like that, free of charge, and then start charging.
Well, I've done 3 this year, so I'm good so far. Yes, sir.
Well, I think if we're doing it within our responsibilities as a councilman, that is one thing. What I think this was written, and we talked about this, is where there were personal, individual requests, and the town is picking up your request, rather than, if it's a town request, town should pay for it. If it's a personal request, the individual should pay for it.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Does that answer your question, or did you have further thoughts on it?
I just think that we shouldn't be cut off totally, that we should be allowed some freedom for honest requests when we need them.
Well, really, the requests that I've put in for would have, I don't have a dollar amount. I'm going to ask Miss Lewis, just off the top of her head, one of my record requests. Would that be about a $20 bill for a, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. They were all different?
A lot of it depends on how many records were actually produced. Sometimes we review 40 only to find 2. Other times, we find stacks.
Okay.
But yeah, the one I'm thinking of yours probably only had might have had 30 or 40 pages, and we charged 25 cents a page.
Okay, so it's not a tremendous amount, and the narrower we make the search, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Lewis, but the narrower we make the search, the less materials that it generates, correct?
Definitely.
Okay. And if I were to say every email that was written by Councilman Best that contained the word "what" for the last 4 years, that would generate a tremendous amount of paperwork. But if I'm looking for something specific, that makes it smaller in volume, and I think it makes us more accountable. I don't think it's fair to have the citizens, if they want to make a records request on something that pertains to us, if they have to pay out of their own pocket, I feel that anything of a personal nature, we ought to pay out of our own.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add something on to the recommended action, to read, require council members to pay all costs associated with any records request generated by the council member for individual purposes.
For individual purposes. Okay, and that would cover your concern, right, Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Murray,
Yes, ma'am.
could I suggest, rather than individual, perhaps maybe you would entertain non-council related?
Personal.
Well, personal, personal has a general connotation that you might be asking about town business for a business reason or for a reason that's not personal to you. It may be one of your constituents that has a concern that you want to make a public records request to get information about that matter. But that's not a personal request. That's a non-council duty related, I don't know, maybe that's not the right way to do it. But an individual request, I think you need more than just individual.
Okay.
So it would read, require council member to pay all costs associated with any records request generated by the council member for non-council related purposes.
Yeah,
Would that be, okay?
Non-council business, yeah.
Okay, non-council related purposes. Just briefly, Mr. Smith, can you bring up page 37? Or is that a problem?
Yeah, we can do that. While that's coming up, I wanted to offer a couple of thoughts there. The first thought, the town does not charge for the full cost of performing the records request.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody asks for a records request, we don't charge for all the staff time, all the research effort, whatever it is the administration has to go through.
Mm-hmm.
We just charge for the copies.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, the records requests I've seen come through the desk were less than $20. Now, some of them were very broad and a little bit more, especially those that deal with DVDs. But generally, the request is less than $20. Council persons have a unique position within the local government. They're able to come to the administration and request information without having to create a records request. And so if there's something of a specific matter that a council member wants follow-up on, generally we can serve that through the town leadership. We can receive those requests and go through that. If the council member isn't completely satisfied with the data that they get back from that, council members also have the option to request that the council take that issue up as a work item.
Right.
It can be brought forward on an agenda and then assigned to staff as an official work item from council. And again, that would not cost the individual council member anything. So the records request kind of is a third venue, if you will, for getting at the information. And generally, it's not terribly expensive.
Right. Not terribly expensive for the individual to pay for those copies, but it's terribly expensive for the town.
Correct.
That's why I wanted, if you could scroll down page 37 of 39. Okay. If you can get that full page. That center cost there, if you follow that down to the bottom, will list Mayor Marley there. Okay, when we make a records request, it costs a number of hours of the town, and Mr. Smith and I spoke on this, Councilman Best and I spoke on this, and it will encourage us as council members, mayor and council members, to be a little more judicious in what we ask for if it has to come out of our own pocket. I think it's only fair that, unless it's council business, as we have pointed out, but if it's for individual business, we need to, I believe, have our feet held to the fire just like the folks in our audience. So. Any further comments?
Just to get that verbiage, is it going to be non-council related items, business, purposes? What?
Purposes was, I believe, what our attorney said.
Purposes, okay.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, the chairs would entertain a motion.
Motion to require council members to pay all costs associated with any records request generated by the council member for non-council related purposes.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Council may vote to recess the regular meeting and hold an executive session which will not be open to the public for the following purposes. An executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 for discussion or consultation with the town's attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town's attorney regarding the town's position on a contract that is the subject of negotiations concerning acquisition of a portion of the City of Prescott water system. Would you folks like to take a 5-minute break or 10-minute break before we reconvene? Okay. If you would form the motion.
Make a motion to adjourn an executive session following a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Adjourn for 10, or recessed for 10 minutes.
hardcore something or other.
Mike's wife's still here, so she makes sure he goes straight home.
Yeah, we don't want him out.
All right.
The agenda packet.
All right.
This is the one you're talking about, right here.
We're back in session. Action items resumed. We're reconvening the regular meeting, just long enough to entertain a motion. to
I entertain
adjourn.
a motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Hey, you guys gonna do aye over there?
Aye, aye, aye,
All
aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Okay,
Aye, aye, aye.
go to the house of wet.
Right here, Steve.
Okay.
The amendment.
Have a great